What is going on, Headliner Nation? Hopefully everyone's doing well out there today. We're talking about our quarterback and tight end rankings for Week 10 fantasy football. Now, this will be our last ranking show here of the day. If you find yourself wanting more flex rankings, defense rankings, kicker rankings, those are all available to members only, so be sure to hit that little blue join button here right under the video. Even though it's already Week 10, it's not too late to become a member. Just for the opportunity alone to join our Discord makes it worth it. Our Discord is a toxic free place that has nothing but a bunch of like-minded fantasy football enthusiasts that just like to go and have a good time with each other. So if that's what you're looking for, consider becoming a member here today. But now let's go ahead and dive into the rankings for the quarterback position. And we don't have some studs this week. We don't have Patrick Mahomes. We don't have Tua Tagovailoa. We don't have Jalen Hurts. So there's going to be a few guys a little bit higher than usual. Let's dive in right now. Number one, still going to be Josh Allen. And this one really shouldn't surprise anyone, right? It's a matchup going up against Denver, Monday Night Football. Josh Allen sitting at number one this week. Number two right now is Joe Burrow, but honestly, I'm watching him like a hawk. We know that Jamar Chase is not 100% healthy, and now all of a sudden, T. Higgins has popped up on the injury report with a hamstring issue. That's something we're paying close attention to. Until we find out more information, though, Joe Burrow right now at number two. Number three, it's Jared Goff. Yes, crazy high for Jared Goff, but he's coming off the bye week in a great matchup going up against the Chargers. Number four, it's Lamar Jackson. The last time he faced Cleveland back in week 4, he absolutely dominated the matchup. Now, sure, he hasn't scored a ton of fantasy points here as of late, but that's because Baltimore has been winning by so much. I got Lamar Jackson at number 4 and was hopefully a pretty close game. Number 5, it's Dak Prescott, mostly due to the fact that they're using CeeDee Lamb a butt ton, which is absolutely great to see. That's why I got Dak at number 5 going up against the Giants. Number 6, it's Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers in a matchup that could be an offensive back and forth shootout going up against the Detroit Lions. A lot easier to throw on Detroit than it is to run on Detroit, so I got Herbert at number 6. Number 7, it's Sam Howell. He goes out basically every single week, throws the ball 40 plus times because his defense is that bad. Now he gets a good matchup going up against Seattle. He's at number 7. Number 8, it's CJ Stroud. Coming off a quarterback 1 overall week in week 9, now a matchup going up against Cincinnati. The running game and the offensive line in Houston is not in a good spot, which means if they want to have a chance to win any ball games, they have to throw the ball. That's why Stroud's at number 8. Number 9, it's Brock Purdy. Now, San Francisco gets to travel down to Jacksonville coming off the bye week, and it looks like he could have Deebo Samuel back this week, which would be huge. That's why he's at number 9. Number 10, it's Trevor Lawrence going up against those San Francisco 49ers. Now, when you see a matchup against San Francisco, you immediately feel like it's a bad matchup because of that defense. But this year, that passing defense just ain't it because everyone is hurt in the secondary. That's why Trevor Lawrence is at number 10. Number 11, it's Geno Smith. Last week was ugly, but that was against Baltimore. Now he gets that Washington Commander defense. Yes, please, got him at number 11. Which will then take us down to number 12, and this is where I have put Kyler Murray. Thanks to all the bye weeks, Kyler Murray found himself inside the top 12 at number 12. It's a home game against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, we may not see Kyler Murray running around like crazy, but with weapons at his disposal like Hollywood Brown, who he has such a great connection with, I got Kyler Murray at number 12. 13, it's Baker Mayfield, a decent matchup for him going up against Tennessee, and Baker continues to find success in the passing game. He got tight end Cade Otton going last week. If he can continue that, he could definitely climb these rankings. Number 14, it's Derek Carr of the New Orleans Saints in a matchup going up against Minnesota. We finally saw that connection get a little bit better last week between Derek Carr and Chris Olave. If they can continue that, the ceiling will continue to be high. I got Carr at 14. 15, this is where I got Josh Dobbs of the Minnesota Vikings in a matchup going up against those New Orleans Saints. Now, Josh Dobbs had only been in Minnesota for like 2 hours last week and went out there and won a ball game. And it's that rushing upside that he showed last week and that we saw in Arizona earlier in the season that made me put him right here at 15. 16 is Will Levis, Tennessee Titans, going up against Tampa Bay, a Tampa Bay defense that was shredded by CJ Stroud just last week. Now, no, that doesn't mean Will Levis is going to have himself a CJ Stroud-esque day, but I do like this offense more with Will Levis under center. That's why he's at 16. 17 is Russell Wilson off the bye week playing Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills defense is hurting for certain right now. And what's crazy is as bad as Denver has been, Russell has been a pretty solid fantasy quarterback. He's at 17. 18, Gardner Minshew going on the road to face the New England Patriots. Now, Minshew needs to start protecting the ball a little bit better. We know he has a great connection with Michael Pittman, but we also know that Josh Downs is currently working through a knee injury, and until we find out more information, I got Gardner Minshew at 18. 19, Jordan Love. Not a bad matchup going up against Pittsburgh, but this overall passing offense makes no damn sense in Green Bay. Chris Christian Watson, once again, not 100%. He's banged up, questionable to play in week 10, so Jordan Love's at 19. 20 is Mac Jones in a matchup going up against Indianapolis. Now, Mac Jones showed last week kind of what his ceiling could be. Really, the biggest concern with Mac Jones is he just doesn't have enough weapons at his disposal to put up bigger numbers, so he's at 20. 21 is Deshaun Watson. Yes, I would like to put him a little bit higher. He didn't look half bad in week 9. The problem is he's traveling to Baltimore to face the Ravens, and the Ravens have been shutting down top offenses in the NFL majority of the season, so Deshaun Watson at 21. 22 is Taylor Heineke, starting once again for the Atlanta Falcons on the road in Arizona. Not a bad matchup whatsoever, but Drake London still questionable to play with a groin injury, so Heineke's at 22. 23, it's Kenny Pickett in a difficult matchup going up against Green Bay. A lot easier to run on Green Bay than it will be to throw on Green Bay, so expect the Steelers to run the ball a lot here in week 10. That's why Pickett's at 23. Then 24 is Tyson Bagent, Chicago Bears, going up against the Carolina Panthers on Thursday Night Football. Now, this Carolina defense, pretty solid, and Tyson Bagent hasn't been playing bad. Another one of those guys that really needs to limit the turnovers, though. We know that Justin Fields is right around the corner, but as of right now, it looks like we got another week of Tyson Bagent. But that's only going to get us halfway through the rankings, because now it's time to talk about the top tight ends in week 10, and we'll throw it over to Kyle.
We're coming off a great week for tight ends, and hopefully they can carry that momentum over into week 10, because if they're able to, it's going to help out a lot of fantasy owners that have been dealing with struggles at the position. Let's go ahead and hop right into it. No Travis Kelce this week, so who's going to take over the number 1 spot? At the top spot this week is going to be none other than Sam Laporta going up against the Chargers, who allow the 2nd most receiving yards and the 4th most receptions to the tight end position. Now, they haven't given up a ton of touchdowns to tight end, only 2, but the amount of sheer volume they give up the tight ends would be great for Sam Laporta this week. At number 2, TJ Hockenson going up against New Orleans. It might not lead to the type of upside that we would like, but when you take a look at safe tight ends outside of Sam Laporta, TJ Hockenson may be the safest this week. For the first time in probably the history of forever, I have 2 rookie tight ends inside my top 3 as Dalton Kincaid comes in at number 3 going up against the Denver Broncos. And the Broncos allow the 9th most receptions to the tight end position. So when you look at just that, you would say, Kyle, how does that deserve number 3 overall for Dalton Kincaid? We know he's playing well, but why so high if it's just the 9th most? Well, that's because they allow the most receiving yards to the tight end position. Dalton Kincaid is going to have some huge play upside in this matchup going up against one of the worst defenses in all the NFL right now. Dalton Kincaid absolutely has top 3 potential. Mark Andrews at number 4 against Cleveland. Mark Andrews should still see a decent amount of volume, but Cleveland is number 1 against tight ends right now and boasts the number 1 overall defense in all of football. Just expect a little bit of a lower ceiling this week, and that's why I have Dalton Kincaid ranked over him. Cincinnati allows the 4th most fantasy points to the tight end position and 5th most receiving yards. Dalton Schultz has been fantastic in 4 of his last 5 games, finding the end zone in each one of those. This week against Cincinnati, and a game that could definitely be back and forth, and a lot of passing for Houston once again could lead to another trip to the end zone. Evan Ingram against San Francisco is going to be tough, but the reason I have him up at number 6 is because of the safety he boasts at the position. I rank him at number 6 because I do my tight end rankings based on the safety of the people involved. And with Evan Ingram, you're really not going to find too much more safety outside of some of the top guys ahead of him. Taysom Hill at number 7 going up against Minnesota. At any point in time, New Orleans could decide we're not going to use Taysom Hill anymore and absolutely leave us in the dust for the tight end position. But you know what? We're going to go ahead and continue to risk it moving forward, because really Taysom Hill is the only thing that's working consistently for New Orleans right now. George Kittle could end up going a little bit higher, and I wanted to rank him higher. Jacksonville is not a bad matchup for him, but Deebo Samuel is back at practice. If for some reason Deebo all of a sudden says, oh, I can't go this week, George Kittle would go up to tight end number 6 for me. But for right now, with Deebo on the way back and probably cutting into George Kittle's targets, I'm going to leave Kittle right here. Jake Ferguson saw his largest target share in a game so far this season, and we need to see more of that for him. But going up against the New York Giants and what is likely to be a lot of positive game script, I don't know if we're going to see it this week for Jake Ferguson. Last week, Dallas had to throw and throw and throw to keep up with Philadelphia. Philadelphia. This week, New York probably won't pose that same type of threat. Trey McBride at number 10. Kyler Murray will be the starter in Arizona, and with Zach Ertz over the last couple of years, Kyler Murray has looked his way early and often. My hope is the same will happen with Trey McBride, and hopefully he's the number 2 target right behind Marquise Brown. We'll have to see if that continues to hold true, but for now, Trey McBride will be just on the outside of the top tight ends available. Cole Kmet's coming off a fantastic week, but he gets a Carolina defense that allows the 9th fewest fantasy points to the tight end position and the 4th fewest passing yards in the league. This is going to be a tougher matchup for Cole Kmet, and he just doesn't have the type of ceiling that we've seen recently. Jonnu Smith seemed to be the number 1 target for Taylor Heineke last week, and this week going up against Arizona could lead to some of the same. Let's keep our fingers crossed that he continues to look his way early on in the game. Smith's week last week was made with a big play. Will he have that against Arizona? Even if he doesn't, his target share should be enough for a good floor. Hunter Henry tied for the team league with 7 targets last week and also found himself in the end zone. Going up against Indianapolis this week, definitely has a lot of touchdown upside once again. And if New England is playing from behind, Hunter Henry should see himself with plenty of targets as well. Now that Kendrick Bourne is done for the season, Hunter Henry has an opportunity to try and slide back into that number 1 role for Mac Jones. Mac Jones looking towards Demario Douglas quite a bit, but also could be looking to Hunter Henry. Logan Thomas against Seattle. If you look at Logan Thomas's last 3 games, it's really the definition of just a nice low floor. Every single week you can bet on anywhere from probably around 5 to 7 targets. He's going to catch 4 or 5 of those, and he's going to give you 50, 60 yards potentially. Not the type of yards that are going to win any games for you, but you're not going to lose very many games either. David Njoku has an awful matchup against Baltimore this week, and he's banged up at practice right now. Normally, this time of the season, a lot of guys are going to be missing practice, and because of that, people are going to get worried. David Njoku does look like he's going to play, but if he's limited in any way going up against such a tough defense, really you would have to be hoping for a touchdown. Gerald Everett's floor and ceiling is very volatile going up against Detroit this week. If Detroit can get the rush in on Justin Herbert and make him uncomfortable in the pocket, Gerald Everett isn't going to have that great of a week. But if they don't, and Justin Herbert has time to just sit in the pocket and throw, Gerald Everett definitely has a ceiling that could put him inside the top 12. Kyle Pitts at number 17, even with no Drake London last week, Kyle Pitts really didn't do a whole lot. And now that Drake London is expected back, I'm dropping Kyle Pitts significantly lower. It just doesn't feel like they're drawing up any plays for him. He doesn't feel like he is necessarily the same type of athlete as he was coming out of college. And honestly, when I look at this offense, there isn't a whole lot of consistency with it. So I would rather trust a guy like Jonnu Smith, who is seeing targets, other than Kyle Pitts, who might just have a big game every once in a while. Hayden Hurst has a really nice opportunity this week going up against the Chicago Bears defense that allows the most fantasy points to the tight end position. But my issue is at this point that Hayden Hurst just isn't seeing the amount of targets that he should from Bryce Young. Now, I already mentioned this in my running back rankings. If you watch that video, my hope is that for Carolina, they really try to get Bryce Young going and comfortable and get his confidence back with some early throws that are high percentage, and Hayden Hurst could really help with that. I've got him 11 spots higher than the consensus right now, and I probably have him ranked higher than a majority of the people in the industry this week. I've got a feeling that Hayden Hurst is going to be utilized. Now, the reason I don't have him any higher is because the floor is still super low. Carolina is not utilizing him, especially since basically week 1. But if he's utilized in the way that I think, quite honestly, Hayden Hurst could end up going all the way up to tight end 9 this week. All right, just a few guys quickly on the outside looking in that we can chat about real quick. Luke Musgrave going up against Pittsburgh is an awful matchup for Luke Musgrave. If he gets the type of volume that we saw last week, that wouldn't be that bad, but he's really going to need to make a big play to make his week. I've got a feeling about Chigiooko this week, and it's right down in my loins, and it's burning a little bit, and you know, now that I think about it, maybe I should go see a doctor. But we're going to follow this feeling with Chigiooko this week anyway and ignore whatever else it may be. Because going up against Tampa Bay is not all that great against the tight end. Tampa Bay currently is allowing the 2nd most passing yards in the league. And there's going to be no Treylon Burks this week going up against Tampa Bay as well. Will Levis in the vertical passing game is definitely looking a lot better than what it did with Ryan Tannehill to start the season. Chigiooko could really be at the forefront of quite a bit of targets this week, especially with no Treylon Burks, and if they have trouble running the football. Give me some Chigioco. If you're desperate, if you're looking for somebody this week, and you're hoping that you can get maybe a big game out to push your week over the top, maybe take a look at Chigioco and see what he can do. Now, Cade Otton, I'm going to mention him because he scored twice last week, and he's on the field more than any tight end in football right now. But this is a really tough matchup going up against Tennessee that allows the second fewest fantasy points to the tight end position right now. Personally, I would rather go with a guy like Chigioco over a guy like Cade Otton this week. Juwan Johnson, he's going to bring touchdown upside now that he's back into the lineup, but until we see it consistently, I just can't put him in my lineup. Michael Mayer could be a safety outlet for Aiden O'Connell this week, but I'm really not banking on it considering the fact that outside of one drive this season, Michael Mayer has basically been invisible. I wanted to mention Irv Smith Jr. because I felt like people were going to ask me about him. He scored a touchdown last week, but he's still only seeing 2 to 3 targets a game. It's not nearly enough for me to get excited about trying to start him, but I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that I would play a lot of guys over him right now. Tyler Conklin this week against Las Vegas could end up having a decent game. Coming off a week, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 60 yards. Didn't look too bad last week, but until I see it consistently, I just can't try it, and the New York Jets are rotating like 3 tight ends right now. Headliner Nation, there you have it. Quarterback rankings and tight end rankings, ready to get you set for week 10 of the NFL season. Good luck to everybody this week. Hopefully you're all able to bring home some wins as we close in on fantasy championship season. For now though, I'm going to get out of here. All of you stay safe and healthy, and I'll catch you in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.